Qodosen or Qodosen, however you wish to pronounce it, SR286. I've had the Qodosen SR286 for a couple of months now, so I thought this might be a good time just to tell you my impressions of it, what I think, and how I found it so far, and to address a couple of comments that have come up in some of my earlier videos about this little radio. Now, one of the earlier comments was along the lines of this is a poor quality unit. Now, I wouldn't agree with that. Certainly, I've said it before, if you've got a Texan PL330 or XH Data D808, this is of a similar quality. I would say maybe a little bit more, slightly higher quality even than those. It just has quite a nice feel to it. Tuning encoder seems quite good. And something that I didn't rate perhaps as highly as I should have when I first started looking at this radio was the display. And I was thinking about this the other day because I have got a video on my channel with a comparison between this radio and the XH Data, or the Qodosen as mine is branded. And don't get me wrong, this is a good radio. I've had this radio for a couple of years. It's been abroad on holiday with me. It's been to various locations, portable and all the rest of it, and it works very well. And it's got RDS on FM. It's also got single sideband, which the Qodosen doesn't have. But if I just turn the radio on here, and we're on, let's just put it on a shortwave frequency, it doesn't really matter. There's the display. It's a little bit of a reflection with the lighting. There's the display, okay. Now, the font, it's readable, and obviously it's a monochrome LCD, so it's readable in pretty much any light, but it's quite a thin, it's not a very bold font. It's not the brightest of LCD displays. Now let's just compare it to the Qodosen. I'll just boot that up. And I'll turn the volume down. Look at the Qodosen display. It is much clearer, much easier to read, nice and bright. Okay, so the display, again, monochrome LCD, so you're going to be able to read this in bright sunlight. It's well backlit if you're reading it at night or in poor lighting conditions, but it's just got a very good display. Okay, now another video I did was a comparison between this and the, behind me here, PL330 on long wave on an external antenna. Now again, I like the PL330. Display on the PL330 is clearer actually than the D808. I still don't think it's quite as good as the Qodosen, but it's pretty good display. But as I said, this video was a comparison of long wave performance on an external antenna. You can switch the PL330 so it will accept an external antenna on long wave. Unfortunately, you don't have that opportunity with the D808, so I couldn't do a comparison with the D808 on long wave, simply because, and this will address another point that was made to me, why didn't I try the 330 against the Qodosen on the internal ferrite on long wave? The reason is, both this 330 and the Qodosen or XH Data on their internal ferrite antennas are absolutely deaf on long wave. They can just about pick up here in the UK, here in South Wales anyway, I can just about pick up BBC Radio 4 on these two, and that's a colossal signal. Okay, they're very poor on long wave. The saving grace of the 330, as I say, is you can do a little keypad combination that will give you the opportunity to use an external antenna on long wave. It does tend to overload this. If you've seen the video, you'll know what I mean. There's a lot of kind of spurious signals when you do that with this that you don't get with the Qodosen, but it then does become usable on long wave with the external antenna. With the internal ferrite, forget it. Okay, now the 286 here is very good on long wave. In fact, apart from my Sony 2001D, which is a big radio, I'll just reach over for it in a moment and show you the size difference. This is the best long wave radio I've had on its internal ferrite. Different matter if you're using external antennas. If you're using something like a mini whip or a Wellbrook loop with a communications receiver, yeah, okay, you might get better results. But with the internal ferrite rod, the only one that comes close to it is this, the ICF 2001D, which again works pretty well on long wave with this internal ferrite rod. Look at the size difference. Now, I've not opened this 2001, and I've got no intention of doing so. It's a very old radio, but it works well. Look at the size difference. The internal ferrite is going to be an awful lot bigger in this radio, isn't it? Okay, so this, the receiver sensitivity, I guess, must be doing the work. This works very well. Battery life, I've seen a few people say the battery life is poor. Now, when the radio's in use, I don't think there's an issue with battery life. One thing I have noticed is that if I use this radio and maybe I don't use it, I put it away and it's got maybe a full battery icon as it has now, if you can see that, or it has perhaps 2 out of 3 bars on the battery icon, I can put that away, not use it for a week or so, and there's clearly battery discharge, you know, while the radio is off. That's not surprising because there's a clock. I just turn this off. Even when it's off, in the backlight you go in a moment. Even when it's off, the clock is always on, so the radio's functioning, you know, in terms of standby clock alarm and so on. So maybe that's draining the battery. It's not a major problem because you could always have a spare 18650 battery. It's easy to just pop the rechargeable battery out of here. I've got a few spare ones which I keep charged up. But what I normally do is, if I've used this for a few hours, I put it on charge and then it'll be fine, it'll be ready for the next use. But there is some discharge, I think, when it's unplugged. More so than maybe the PL330 or the XH data. So there's a couple of things I wanted to say about this. I've still got a lot I want to do with it. I've taken it up to my local high ground, although it was a very windy day, it wasn't the best of weather. I'm going to do that again. I also want to take this radio on a little hike up to one of the higher peaks in South Wales at some stage, and just see how it performs on FM, on its telescopic, because the height is going to benefit FM reception. Probably not going to make a great deal of difference on the other bands, but while I'm there with this radio I'll try them. But the real attraction with this radio is FM band 2 DXing, although as you'll have seen from the videos that I've already done, it's very good on medium wave, very good on long wave, as we said, and it's very sensitive on short wave. It's been suggested that I do a comparison with the Belka DX, and I'll do that. Now the Belka, which is not there at the moment behind me, but the Belka has a single sideband, so obviously I won't be able to do any listening to the amateur radio bands with this because it's got no SSB, but we'll do some broadcast band comparisons with the Belka. My Belka is the earlier version that only covers from 1.6 megahertz up, so we can't do medium wave. So it's going to be HF shortwave comparisons with the Belka, and you'll see how that does. But overall, I'm very, very pleased with this radio. It's a superb little package. It's got actually quite nice audio from the speaker here as well. Works great on medium wave with this internal ferrite, great on long wave. And it's pretty sensitive on short wave with the telescopic. And yet it handles an external antenna reasonably well. I say reasonably well, I haven't had any overload problems with it. They're still quite pricey. Last time I looked, you're looking at about 110 to 120 UK pounds. But in saying that, when the ATS 25 first came out, you know, the little colour display Chinese receiver, There's one, I can't see it, just up on the shelf there above me. When that first came out, it was around that price, and believe me, this radio is miles ahead of the ATS-20 and the ATS-25 in terms of its user interface, its receiver quality, its audio quality, everything. Way better. So if you're looking for a really lightweight, sensitive, portable, and you're just looking for broadcast listening rather than amateur band listening, then it's definitely worth considering the Qodosen SR286. So there you are, that's my opinion so far. You'll see this in some future videos. I'm going to get out and about a bit more with it now the summer's coming, and hopefully we'll have some interesting results. And thank you for watching.